I have returned, or at least I'm pretty damn sure I have. Otherwise, this is all an elaborate dream, and I'm crazy. Am I crazy? Tell me, am I crazy?
Act like an angel, just like crazy.
I have returned and I'm wearing a Christmas sweater now. I've donned a Christmas sweater because it's that time of year. We are in the swing of the season. Capitalism is taking over again, and I gotta buy gifts for all my family. Yay! I have to spend money, not on Star Wars. No, but I'm happy to. I like giving gifts. I'm a good person, guys. I'm a very good person. Okay. So today we are talking about, was Yoda a good Jedi Master? Now, I've divided this video up, pros and cons again. I've noticed that's a theme with me. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm using that. But that's a really easy way to divide up a video. So that's how I'm structuring this. I think I'm probably gonna do that more. So sorry if you don't like that. Fuck you, unsubscribe. I don't know. Yes. And I want to preface this by saying I'm going to be referencing this comic because I read it and I was like, that's dope. I'm going to make a video kind of talking about some of the stuff I noticed in there. So that's cool. And then I also want to preface, before I get into the cons of the video, people put too much responsibility into Yoda, I think, at least. I think, like, when talking, was Yoda a good grandmaster? Was he a good leader of the Jedi Order? People forget there was a whole council who were also supposed to lead the Jedi Order. This wasn't just Yoda. Yoda was not like Mr. Dictator, I'm going to make all the choices. I mean, he had the final say, obviously, but he definitely had, like, people who he would talk about. They talked. This wasn't all Yoda. With that being said, though, Geonosis, that's pretty rough, man. This was a major up for the Jedi Order. They really screwed up on this one, guys. This was bad. Just to put it into perspective, the Jedi believed that just that amount, and Yoda believed that just that amount of Jedi would kind of stop the war. Because he believed that everybody thought the Jedi were really, really cool and powerful. Now, a lot of people did. And if these were pirates or something, or if this wasn't like Count Dooku and Sith, that might have worked. At least I think, like, okay, if you've got like pirates or stuff, or something like that, or people who aren't like directly connected to the Force, that might have worked. But Dooku was a Jedi. And Dooku knows how Jedi operates. So it really didn't work. And then you go in with 202 Jedi, and then you come out with, and then 179 die. So that's not a very good life-to-death ratio. I don't know, like, that's bad. That's really bad. And it's a terrible start to the Clone Wars, because even though they won Geonosis, it's a very Pyrrhic victory. And if the Jedi Council, but more specifically Yoda, had been a little bit smarter and had said, hey, this is a matter of intergalactic politics, which is really complicated. First of all, there wouldn't be that many dead Jedi, and secondly, the Clone Wars might have not kicked off in such a violent way, because also the tactics in that battle were just terrible for the clones. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Yoda also, there's kind of this argument that Yoda didn't allow the Jedi to change that much, and that's not that wrong, really. It is, there's definitely evidence which supports a person who would make that argument. Yoda is an old guy, okay? He's an old guy, and he probably, like, the Jedi Order, especially pre-Phantom Menace, very, very rigid. Talk about it in this book. They're such a rigid organization, and Yoda didn't try to dissuade that as much as what he should have. And if he would have, they would have probably been a lot better off. But that's another argument. Again, that's another video entirely talking about what the Jedi Order maybe should have been. Now, if you want me to make that video, let me know in the comments. Okay, constantly underestimating the dark side. This is a big one. Oh my god. Yoda is so, I don't want to say naive because he's older than all of us, but he does constantly underestimate how powerful the dark side is. And he constantly is presuming that the force is on their side or something. I don't know. He doesn't realize how much the deck is stacked against him until like Clone Wars Season 6 or even like, well, I say Clone Wars Season 6 because there's that one episode there. I think it's the final episode of the Clone Wars, and he has some really interesting pieces of dialogue where he's like, we might not win this war, but eventually we'll beat the Sith or something like that. But there is a lot of times throughout the trilogy where he just consistently underestimates how powerful the dark side is and how much control it has, which really, really screws up Star Wars. And one big point too, well, not a big point, but I feel like it would be a big point in the Star Wars universe and among the Jedi Order, is him mentoring Dooku and like being Dooku's master, and then Dooku turns to the dark side and literally leads the opposition against the Jedi. Probably not very good. I think that probably happened because Dooku was able to see this guy's a little bit different than other Jedi and stuff, so I want to do this personally. But that didn't work out very well. If you couldn't tell, there were some problems that happened. Oh, what was it? Oh yeah, he started a war. He started a very big war and killed a lot of people. But here are the pros. All right, for starters, there's kind of the obvious one, which is who else? Who else can be the grandmaster of the Jedi Order? Who else can stand on that high horse and be all fantastic? Not really anybody. I mean, there's Ki-Adi-Mundi, who's old. Mace Ki-Adi-Mundi, like Luminara Unduli, they would all probably suck. I mean, there's Shakti. She'd probably be pretty good just because she's smart. She knows how stuff works. She is so underrated, actually, as a character. Very cool character who can hold herself on the battlefield, but also is like immensely empathetic. Anyway, another video. I keep on saying that, but yeah. Also, I need video ideas, so let me know in the comments. I don't just say that because I want this thing to do well. Speaking of, like and subscribe for more content like this. I don't just say that because I want this thing to do well. I say that because I do need video ideas. With that being said, yes. Who else is there? Well, there's not really anybody else. And then the other big point, obviously, is people to put too much responsibility on Yoda, because Jedi at this point were not very good. I say that in the most respectable way possible. Mace Windu, or Mace Windu, because I know you guys hate me when I say it like that. Mace Windu, he was a bit of an ass. And his outlook on the way the war was, his outlook on what the Jedi Order was very flawed. And same with Ki-Adi-Mundi. Same with much of the Jedi High Council. There was this systemic, just culture of, I wouldn't call it yes men, but very traditional Jedi who didn't want to change the Force. I'm having a drink of water. Fuck you. I know you're judging me. To continue. Anyway, so people, there's way too much responsibility put on Yoda, or like there's other Jedi like Luminara who are just so traditionalist, almost detached from like, and Yoda did encourage a culture of detachment to a certain extent, but they're so detached from reality. And that kind of brings me to my next point. See how that perfect segue, by the way. Which is, Yoda is actually a fantastic Jedi when you think about it. First of all, Yoda is detached enough to be okay with death, but we also see Yoda cares about every single Jedi in the Jedi Order. like in Clone Wars Season 6, Yoda's got that arc, and there's all those visions of all the dead Jedi and stuff. And Yoda is really, really sad when that happens. Wow, Yoda's sad when people die. But compared to other Jedi, like Luminara, that is, I would say, progress. I would say Yoda being able to feel concern and remorse for other humans is very healthy. Or like when Ahsoka dies, he, like in, he obviously doesn't see Ahsoka die. If she ever does die, God only knows, right? Or Filoni only knows. Filoni only knows. He, in that arc, Ahsoka's like dying on the ground and stuff, and he's very concerned about her, and he has this empathy for her. She's not even in the Jedi Order at that time, but Yoda's fantastically empathetic, so he really did care. He even cared about Dooku. Like, even in Episode 2, after Dooku killed a whole bunch of Jedi, Yoda is just kind of trying to have a conversation with him when he comes in and fights him in Episode 2 there. And then, you know, obviously it escalates and stuff. And then Yoda was also incredibly powerful in the Force. Like, absurdly powerful. Yeah, he just was such a fantastic teacher. He was so good at being a Jedi. For example, this is something which I feel like a lot of people sleep on. To get into the Force, I feel like isn't a one and done. I feel like that isn't something which is just like, oh, you're in the Force now. Congratulations. It is, I presume, quite difficult. Just looking at like some of the trials which Yoda went through. I know I keep on bringing up that final arc in Season 6, but I watched that recently too, so you caught me. But yeah, it is not easy to get into the Force, and you have to be an intelligent, gifted Jedi who is willing to sacrifice themselves into the light side of the Force, which Yoda was willing to do, and Yoda consistently proves that he is arguably the most powerful Jedi in all of the Jedi Order, even though he's like almost 900 years old at the time of the Clone Wars. He is absurdly old. And then finally, again, this goes back to my other point of who else is there, because Yoda, like, oh, the other person who you could have is Qui-Gon. I forgot to mention that, but I don't think he'd really want that, and Obi-Wan too, but he was a bit young. But like as grandmaster, but Yoda doesn't really like, compared to all the other Jedi, Yoda is a lot better at talking with somebody who is a bit more controversial, like Qui-Gon. Like in this comic, Yoda's talking to Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon's like, maybe he's talking about like these very abstract elements of the Force, and Yoda knows that the council would disagree, but he still can have this dialogue, and Yoda wanted Qui-Gon to join the council because he wanted other opinions. Yoda knew that the council did kind of have this problem of people who were very proper and pristine and traditional in the Force, which is a mistake, and he saw that in Qui-Gon. I don't think he's not nearly as far along in Qui-Gon, because there's a final scene in this comic, bit of a spoiler alert, but they're talking in this comic, and I found the scene really funny, because Qui-Gon's talking about how, you know, the Jedi Order can't be too like it can't be too firm. It has to be able to bend and move with the times. And Yoda's like, but you can't bend too much, otherwise you go to the dark side. And Yoda kind of gets hung up on the dark side thing, but he's making an effort. It was funny because it felt a bit like Yoda was on like have you ever had a conversation with your friend where you know a lot about this topic and they get kind of confused at point B and they're still hung up at that point, and you're on point like W? Like that that's why the conversation, I find, was funny. But it goes to show Yoda did try to understand. Yoda did try to be the best Jedi he could be, and he did try to have the Jedi Order shift. He tried to have Jedis like Qui-Gon have a place and a say in the Jedi Order, but obviously the Jedi Order still fell, because in part, the cards were very much stacked against him. For Yoda, obviously he's consistently underestimating the dark side, but from the beginning of the war, the deck was stacked in the dark side's favor. Sidious, the dark side controls both sides of this war. This is a proxy war to eliminate the Jedi, to essentially create the Empire. And Yoda, or not a proxy war. That was bad English. Bad English. But Yoda kind of just has to do his best in this scenario. So were there leadership problems? Yes, obviously. Is that more of a systemic issue to me? Yes. I think I said this at the beginning of the video. This video is going to be your choice. You coming out of this, I've listed off all these pros and cons, and I've said all this bullshit about God knows what. But at the end of the day, whether you think Yoda is a good leader or not is up to you. To me, I think overall he actually was a solid leader of the Jedi Order. I think a lot of people don't realize that the Jedi's Order's problems, they were systemic. They were in there for a long time, and there was no changing that. Yoda tried to change that to a certain extent, but there were a lot of Jedi like Mace, like Luminara, like Ki-Adi-Mundi, even to a certain extent Obi-Wan on a bad day, grumpy Obi-Wan, who were very rigid when it comes to the Force. And I think Yoda was rigid to a certain extent too, but I think he was trying to loosen up. So what is the verdict for this video? To me, Yoda was a good grandmaster, but obviously let me know in the comments. I've said this before, but please like and subscribe. Look at me. Look at this sheep. This sheep wants you. It implores you to subscribe. Okay? It implores you to subscribe. Anyway, have a good rest of your day, and the Force will be with you always.